CPC increased, ACOS increased, and that leads me to tell you audiences are super, super expensive. This is one of the cases where it actually worked out really well. In about 8-ish cases, you will have to pause the audience or reduce bid a lot because your ACOS will go really, really high. When we ran the same campaign without the audience, the conversion was 22.8%, 28%. The audience itself had a conversion of 30%, and then overall the campaign had a conversion of 28%. So the conversion increased.
Are you using AMC data for your sponsored ads? AMC has been super hyped, as it should be, for a while, but nobody really knows how to use it or what to do with it or how to leverage it. And so that's why I'm so excited for this conversation today. I have Neha from Adam 11, which is a fantastic ad optimization software, and she's here to share with us about AMC, how to use it. And she was also saying she's going to share some stuff you should be aware of when it comes to getting into AMC. So welcome.
Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I am so glad you're here to share us with AMC. I'm so stoked to get into this. But before we do that, do you want to share just a quick background on yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Neha Bhuchar. I am the co-founder of Adam 11. Thank you for the awesome introduction about us and Adam 11. Very quickly, I'm also ex-Amazon. I've worked with Amazon advertising for about 6.5 years. During that time, I've launched Prime Video ads. I've worked as a lead for account management as well as ad sales. So I come with a very strong domain expertise on how to grow brands on Amazon advertising and how, Amazon advertising algorithms work in the backend.
Awesome. And I'm sure we're going to be digging into a lot of the back end of the algorithms today when talking about AMC. If you haven't heard of AMC or aren't aware of the options, do you want to just give like a brief overview, intro into AMC? And then I would love to pick your brain on how to leverage it.
Absolutely. So, one of the pet peeves that, people have when, actually, I don't know if I'm using the right word, but one of the issues people have when they're trying to use Amazon Marketing Cloud, which is AMC, is that people are calling it with some really complicated names. They'll give a very complicated definition to it, which makes it very scary to start using. But let me tell you what exactly Amazon Marketing Cloud is. Just think of an Excel sheet in which you have every single line item on that Excel sheet is basically a customer ID. Let's assume that I'm showing you my ad. If you're going to edit it, Elizabeth, I'm just going to bring that up for you. It's going to be really helpful. So let's assume that I looked at your ad. So I'm customer number 1 and Elizabeth looked at your other ad and she's customer number 2. What happens is that Amazon is going to give you an Excel sheet or a database which will tell you what customer 1 did. Let's say I viewed your ad, I clicked your ad and I viewed your detail page, and then I disappeared. Then there's Elizabeth who came, who viewed your ad. She clicked on your ad. She viewed one detail page. Then she viewed the second detail page. And then she added your product to cart, right? Then there's customer number 3 who viewed your ad. And that's it. Just went ahead and purchased your product. Did not even click, right? So like this is an Excel sheet and they call it a database where you have details about every single customer and every single event that that customer did when after they saw your ad. Does that clarify what Amazon
No,
Marketing
I
Cloud?
think that is the best explanation and the clearest explanation I've ever heard of Amazon Marketing Cloud. You've just clarified a lot for me, so I appreciate that. When it comes to using Marketing Cloud, okay, so I think just from that explanation, I'm like, oh, wow, I can absolutely see, how the segments work and how all that stuff. And I love that you put it in Excel format. How can we leverage this data?
Yes, absolutely. So now there's many ways of using Amazon Marketing Cloud and things get more and more complex the more creative you get. Just think about it, right? You have this Excel sheet of every customer that has seen your ad in the past, right? You can do whatever you want. And if I were to tell you how people leverage it in like one line, they can either leverage it by creating reports on these customers so they can figure out how many customers added my product to cart, how many customers saw my ad and did not purchase my product, how many customers looked at my detail page more than 5 times yesterday, right? They can do whatever they want. That is basically their reporting section. The second thing that they can do with this data is basically creating audiences. So I mean, once you know what an audience has done, you would want to action on them, right? So what you can do with the action is that now you can create audiences that have seen your ad but did not click on them, or who have clicked on your ad but did not purchase your product, or clicked on your ad, added your product to cart, but still did not purchase your product, right? So
Mm.
now you can create these audiences and target them. So that is the two major things that you can do with Amazon Marketing Cloud. I can go on and on about a lot of other things, Elizabeth, but this is a spirit of Amazon Marketing Cloud and the actionability around it.
I love that. I love that. And I'm sure, like you said, there's almost infinite ways to look at reports and sort of pull them together. And I know there's a lot of really amazing people in the space, yourself being one of them, who are like, looking at all the reports and putting them together and coming up with really interesting insights. So the insights are great. But I know one of the things that you were talking about is really taking action. So building those audiences, and then we now have the ability to leverage AMC audiences. You're the one building the audience in our sponsored ads, which you could do
Yes.
it for DSP ads. Now we can do it for sponsored ads, which is really exciting. But here again, I found a breakdown for sellers because they're like, all right, this is great. I know there's this wonderful world of something that everybody told me is fantastic. I don't know what to do with this information. What's the next step? So I am assuming you build the audience first and then you test it, or what's kind of your workflow for that?
Absolutely. So let me first tell you the one hack statement or the problem statement that right now I'm going to be talking about. The problem statement is that today, when you run sponsored ads, if you're running sponsored product ads and sponsored brand ads, they're all running in silos.
Hmm.
They could be showing your ads to completely different folks, like completely different customers. I searched for the keyword shoe and I saw your sponsored product ad. When I search for the keyword shoes for women, I do not see a sponsored product ad, and I may not even see your sponsored brand ad, right? So it's completely in silos. What we can do with Amazon Marketing Cloud is that we can start merging these audiences or marrying these audiences. So let me
Mm.
tell you how. You can create an audience that has either seen your sponsored product ad or has clicked on your sponsored product ad, right?
Mhm.
Now you will just, once you've built this audience, by the way, which is like about 1 minute of work, because this audience is pre-created or pre-built within the Amazon ad console or the Amazon Marketing Cloud console.
Mhm.
Pre-built audience, all you have to do is add like one or two things. Once that is done and the audience is created, you will go to your sponsored brand ads and bid boost that specific audience. So you can go and say, boost that audience bid by 50%. So let's say if now when someone is looking at your sponsored brand ads, if that audience has already seen your sponsored product ad, you will be increasing your bid for that specific audience. And Elizabeth, I think you would probably be very quick to notice that this is basically a version of up and down bidding where Amazon
Mhm.
has now started giving control to you. So Amazon is now saying, hey, you know what? You did not trust my up and down bidding. Why don't you go and, create your own audience and bid up on audience that you feel will convert better?
I like that. And correct me if I'm wrong, from my understanding and kind of the way it works, is it's very similar to like a placement percentage. But
It is
instead of
exactly.
okay, yeah, that was my understanding is it's exactly like a placement percentage, but instead of saying, "Hey, Amazon, I'm willing to spend more on, top of search or maybe product or again, whatever's working," you say, "Hey, I'm willing to spend more but on an audience." So it's not a placement, it's going after a specific customer archetype.
Absolutely. This is exactly what it is. It is just a placement percentage. And that's why it's nothing to be worried about, right? So you have to figure out that what percentage you will have
Mhm.
versus the bids that you will have so that you have the best balance between conversions and ROI that you're getting from this specific audience.
Got it. In the beginning, before we started this recording, you were saying something about potential pitfalls or things that
Yes.
people should be aware of.
Absolutely. Before I get into the pitfalls, I want to show you some results,
Yeah.
some good that we have seen from this specific hack. So basically, whenever you are running an audience, there are two ways of evaluating that audience, Elizabeth. One is you look at when you did not have the audience, what was the conversion
Mhm.
percentage or the ROAS of that campaign. And the second is that Amazon itself will give you, a comparison of how that audience is working and how the overall campaign is working. Right now,
Mhm.
typically what we have seen is that whenever you have a converting audience, any audience which can help you increase conversion, you do see an increase in conversion. So just if you look at here, when we ran the same campaign without the audience, the conversion was 22.8%, 28%. The audience itself had a conversion of 30%, and then overall the campaign had a conversion of 28%. So the conversion increased, and this usually happens in most campaigns that we run. Now, one of the good things that happened for this specific audience was that we also did not have a very high difference in ACOS. So for the increase in conversion, you basically had a 2% increase in ACOS, which is fine. But if you look at the CPCs, there was originally the CPC was zero point 0.4. Now with the audience, the audience specifically had a CPC of $1, and then that basically increased the overall CPC of the campaign too. So CPC increased, ACOS increased, and that kind of leads me to tell you audiences are super, super expensive. I'm going to talking about those pitfalls very quickly, but they are expensive. And this is one of the cases where it actually worked out really well. In about 8-ish cases, you will have to pause the audience or reduce bid a lot because your ACOS will go really, really high. Right. So I'm going to be talking about the pitfalls because, for every hack, for every glittery that you see, you need to know what goes behind it and what is it that will save you from any expenditure that you may end up doing, which you did not want, because we ended up doing that expenditure because we were still learning. Right.
I got it. And I assume that's very similar to like how top of search is very expensive. And there's a lot of people who will say like, hey, top of search is the best all. And, you get increased conversion rates and you get increased click-through rates on top of search, which is true for most products, not all. But then you also have a much higher cost of doing top of search. So it seems like it's a very similar, hey, it is a high cost, high reward if done correctly. So just make sure with anything, you should be watching your numbers and making sure that you're doing it correctly.
Absolutely. And I think it's even more important for this one because audiences, they drink the budget. So let me tell you what are the potential, things that you need to watch out for. First things first, whenever you see an Amazon Marketing Cloud case study, a lot of times you will see that people won't show you how many clicks the audiences are getting, right? Audiences don't get too many clicks because the audience size usually is so small whenever you're building an audience. Can you think of it like how many people will added your product to cart but not purchased, right? Not a number. If it's not 100,000 or 200,000 number, then your audience size is really, really small. So how many clicks could you get from those audiences?
Yeah.
Now, our rule is that you need to have at least 15 to 20% clicks of that campaign from the audience for you to even be able to say that, yes, this audience is working.
I like that.
So, yes, you need to have at least that minimum number. So, the first challenge that you will face is to actually get clicks because audience sizes are so small. The potential solution for this is create audiences which are very large. Create audiences which have at least 50,000 or 100,000 people in it. Now, when you create audiences on Amazon Marketing Cloud, it actually has a column which says how many audience is in it or what is the size of that audience, right? So if you do not get at least 50,000 people in that audience, make that audience more broad. So
I like it.
Make it right. The second thing that you will face is that CPCs are too high. Now, this is just my hypothesis. I think that it's a supply and demand game because, if there's an audience that you are going after, a lot of times many other people would also be going after that audience. I have seen audiences CPC go as high as $54. I have seen other groups where people have shown, you and I are on a group, shown us $110 of audience CPCs. So how can you reduce audience CPCs is again, the larger the audience, the better its C will be. Larger does not mean irrelevant. Maybe that's a conversation for another time, but it has enough people in it that Amazon can target and bring down that CPC. The last problem that people will face is that ACOS is very high. So what I have seen is about 2 out of 10 audiences actually end up working for us in terms of both conversions as well as ACOS. That's a balance that you have to, get to when it comes to audiences. And that's why I use the word ruthless optimization when it comes to audiences. Like, you need to be bidding high enough that you're getting audience impressions, but you need to optimize it so often so that you are not getting into that ACOS of, double the ACOS of that specific campaign or really high ACOS. So those are the 3 main problems that people are going to run into. And I'm not going to say that I have figured it all out. I mean, we are still learning. Anyone who says that they have figured AMC out, I think probably it's just too early to actually say that. But I think as we learn, we are also sharing these learnings, more and more with, people through amazing platforms like yours. But this is definitely the challenges that they will face. And there are some potential solutions that I have tried to bring in so that they can run it in the best possible way.
I love it. I love it. Do you mind me digging in slightly into the optimization a little bit? Because I would love to hear. So We've already talked about how it's placement percentages. So you're adjusting the placements. When you're saying adjusting for the CPC, is that a typical optimization where you're also looking at the percentage optimizations and then the bids? Do you have any tips on like initial testing there?
Yes. An initial tip that I have found is that try bidding low on the campaign, just like you did for top of search, when that came out, bidding low
Mhm.
on the campaign itself, and at least have 200%, 60 to 200% is the sweet spot that we found. Have at least that kind of a bid boost for your audience.
Mm.
Whenever you have an audience, try not to have top of search because these audiences are multiplied, right? So
Mm.
then you have a multiplier for top of search, then you have another
Yeah.
multiplier for the audience sizes or CPCs again also go up because there's just so many of these multipliers.
I would
So
assume in that case as well, you would not want to use dynamic up and down. You'd probably use down only or fixed.
fixed. So I believe this is again my hypothesis. I believe this up and down is basically an automated part of how we
Hmm.
are doing all this at this
Yeah.
point. So up and down is, I think we ruled out up and down long
Yeah.
ago. Never been using it, and I think when you use audiences, right, you will also get to know why up and down did not work so well
Mm.
because so many audiences you believe that they have high conversion and they are high conversion, but because of the audience sizes, the CPCs are so high that your ACOS goes into the ditch. So that's why having this control is so good because now you can know which audiences you want to bid on and to balance the conversion and aspect.
That's a fantastic point. So it sounds like if you go below 60%, like if you have to go so low on the percentage, then it's not really going to be worth it. So that's probably the point where you're like, okay, this audience doesn't work. It's not like audience doesn't work. It's this audience doesn't work. So like you're saying, you need to definitely test here. I have another question. So when it comes to setting up these audiences on campaigns, have you found that like creating new campaigns to be able to have that dynamic works? Is it best in existing campaigns?
So I like to put it in existing campaigns, Elizabeth, because I'm able to compare,
Yeah.
like I showed you here, right? That I'm able to compare what happened without the audiences and what happened with the audience. But you know what? There is no hard and fast rule I would suggest.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you why I like creating it in the same audience because also if the audience doesn't work, you can just like remove the bid percentage or the bid adjustment and you're back to how the campaign was working initially. So that's what has worked out for me. But there are people who create new audiences just for tracking purposes and see what
Right.
is working for them. So I
Right.
mean, this is just my preference.
Now that would have been my assumption because I mean in our case like not every single campaign is going to perform. So then it's like did the audience not perform? Did the campaign not perform? There's a little bit of uncertainty there. So I
Mhm.
think we've gone about it in the same way when testing. I guess other maybe last question on this would be when it comes to determining what types of campaigns. Do you have a match type you focus on? Do you have an ad type you focus on? Is there a targeting type you focus on?
Yeah, I'll give you a North Star, Elizabeth. And I think North Stars work well because then you can do whatever you want because you know what
Mhm.
you are trying to achieve
Yeah.
as broad as you can go. And that's why
Mhm.
sometimes I have seen, again, I just have a recollection of two of the accounts that I can think of at this point where auto actually worked really, when we added the audience to auto
Mhm.
campaigns, it worked really well. So as broad as you can go, or you can have, your broad match campaigns or something like that, because that gives Amazon a very large surface area to
Mhm.
actually test out this audience on. So that is my North Star. I don't have a case study to show you whether what worked better, but my north is always to figure out how can I increase the surface area that Amazon has to try out this audience.
Yeah, it makes total sense because you were going back to audience sizes in the beginning and like the audience segments are very small. And then if you have, say, only an exact match targeting, then like only if one of those audiences searches with an exact match on that specific search, like that is the only time you can target. So your targeting
Exactly.
potential is insanely limited. And as we kind of said in the beginning, you're targeting shoppers, you're not really targeting searches. So you're trying to show up wherever they're searching to hopefully get them back into your ecosystem because they've already proven that they interacted with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you got the North Star now.
Fantastic. Now, this has been amazing and helpful, and I really, really appreciate it. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, so they're like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Because unfortunately, right now, to get access to AMC for sponsored ads, you do have to go through a partner who has access to it. Amazon hasn't released it to individual sellers at this moment. So you would obviously, I mean, we have access to AMC, but I know you guys do as well. So where can someone get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You can reach out to me at at either on my LinkedIn, first of all. I don't have it on here, but I have a very peculiar last name. And you can reach out to me on my LinkedIn. I'm very responsive over there. Or you can write to me at ask@atom11.co, or you can just go and book a meeting with me on our website at atom11.co.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic, and I really appreciate it. You dispelling a lot of the uncertainty around AMC. I'm sure I'm going to be sending this recording to my team as well. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me share this, because I think AMC is something where we need to share both the basics as well as the nuances at this time, because just there's people want to try it out,
Yeah.
and there is fear in getting started. I mean, I was afraid when I got started.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure we'll have you back again. Maybe someday we can talk like AMC audiences specifically. That would be fun. But otherwise,
Absolutely.
I will see you in the next one.